The soft hum of expectation, the clinking of champagne glasses, the muted conversations of 200 guests celebrating what they believed to be a love story for the age. It was supposed to be a night of joyous anticipation, a prelude to a lifetime of shared happiness. Instead, for Simone Clark, it was the night her carefully constructed world would implode, not in a silent, private whisper, but in a symphony of shattering truths. Imagine standing in a ballroom bathed in the golden glow of crystal chandeliers, watching the man you are days away from marrying spin another woman in his arms. Not just any woman, but his secretary, Rachel Martinez. And not just any dance, but one so intimately choreographed, so perfectly seamless, it spoke of 1,000 shared moments, a clandestine language only they understood. This wasn't a casual interaction. It was a performance of betrayal playing out right before your eyes, illuminated by the very lights of your engagement party. The 3-carat diamond ring, a symbol of promises now irrevocably broken, felt like a lead weight in Simone's palm. Its facets, once glittering with hope, now seemed to mock her, digging into her skin with every tight grip. It's a moment of profound, visceral pain, the kind that freezes you in place while the rest of the world spins oblivious around you. The same hands that lovingly placed that ring on her finger 8 months ago, the hands that caressed her face, whispering sweet nothings about their future, were now intimately placed on Rachel's waist. Every single promise, every whispered dream, every shared secret, evaporated into thin air, revealed as nothing but hollow, deceitful lies. What must it feel like to hold the physical proof of your undoing? In Simone's purse, nestled amongst her lipstick and keys, lay a manila envelope. Inside, 47 photographs, 12 recorded phone conversations, and bank statements detailing hotel charges stretching back 6 months. 6 months of a meticulously crafted double life, built on a foundation of working late, client dinners, and business trips that were, in reality, romantic getaways with the woman now laughing in Brandon's arms. The irony was a cruel twist of the knife. Their engagement party, a celebration of their supposed love, was the culmination of his 6-month betrayal. This wasn't just a partner making a mistake. This was a calculated, prolonged deception, a systematic dismantling of trust. As Rachel leaned into Brandon's chest, her vibrant red dress a stark, almost provocative contrast against his formal black tuxedo, they moved as one. It was a dance of intimacy, of shared secrets, a public display of a private affair, yet only Simone held the key to decipher its true meaning. Around them, 200 guests raised their glasses, oblivious. Brandon's high-powered law partners chuckled over expensive whiskey. Simone's family members smiled for photos, her mother eagerly asking about future grandchildren. No one suspected that in just 10 minutes, the carefully constructed facade would crumble, and Simone, the quiet, composed bride-to-be, would be the one to light the fuse. This moment is a powerful reminder of how easily we can be blinded by love, by hope, and by the desire for a perfect narrative. We often see what we want to see, ignoring the subtle shifts, the nagging doubts, the quiet whispers of our intuition. But intuition, though easily dismissed, often holds the earliest warnings, and when those warnings coalesce into undeniable proof, the truth hits like a physical blow, leaving us breathless, exposed, and utterly alone in a crowded room. Simone's target sat at the head table. Mrs. Eleanor Roberts, Brandon's mother, elegant in navy blue, beaming with pride at her son. Eleanor, who had always treated Simone like the daughter she never had, a relationship forged in genuine affection. This was perhaps the cruelest cut of all for Simone, the knowledge that her actions would wound not just Brandon, but someone she genuinely respected and cared for. Yet Eleanor deserved the truth about her precious boy, a boy who was anything but precious in his deceit. The music swelled. Brandon dipped Rachel low, her laughter echoing, her hand resting on his chest in a gesture that screamed intimacy, not professional decorum. Whispers rippled through the guests, some confused, others finally connecting the dots of previous, unsettling observations. It was a ripple effect of suspicion, soon to become a tsunami of undeniable truth. Natasha, Simone's best friend, materialized at her elbow, a silent sentinel of support. "You ready for this?" she asked, a loaded question filled with the weight of consequence. "I've been ready since I saw those pictures 3 days ago," Simone replied, her voice steady, an iron will masking the tempest within. "Remember, you don't owe him anything, not after what he did." This wasn't about vengeance. It was about liberation. It was about reclaiming her narrative, her dignity, and her future from the man who had tried to steal them both. She had rehearsed this moment countless times in her mind, every word, every step, a meticulous choreography of truth. Brandon thought her naive, too trusting to notice his brazen affair. He was about to learn just how wrong he was. The song began to wind down, a fitting end to a dance of deception. Simone smoothed her emerald green dress, a color of renewal and growth, checked her reflection, and walked toward Mrs. Roberts with an unwavering purpose. Each click of her heels against the marble floor was a step closer to severing the biggest lie of her life, a journey from blissful ignorance to painful, empowering truth. Mrs. Roberts looked up, her face softening with genuine warmth. "Simone, darling, you look absolutely stunning tonight. That dress is perfect on you." The casual compliment, so innocent, yet so laced with unintended irony, hung in the air. "Thank you, Mrs. Roberts. You look beautiful as well." Simone's voice remained calm, a practiced facade over a racing heart. "I need to speak with you about something important." Eleanor's expression shifted, the maternal warmth replaced by a subtle apprehension. "Of course, dear. What is it?" Simone glanced back at the dance floor. Brandon and Rachel stood close, heads together, sharing hushed words and a private giggle, Rachel's hand resting possessively on his arm. It was a scene that confirmed every accusation, every photograph, every recorded whisper. "Mrs. Roberts, I'm returning this to you." Simone opened her palm, revealing the sparkling diamond ring. It caught the light, a brilliant, mocking beacon of broken vows. "Your son won't be needing it anymore." The confusion on Eleanor's face was palpable. "I don't understand, sweetheart. What's wrong? Did you two have a fight?" The naive question was a painful testament to Brandon's elaborate deceit, to how thoroughly he had managed to compartmentalize his life. "No, ma'am. We didn't have a fight. I discovered that Brandon has been having an affair with his secretary for the past 6 months. I have proof." The color drained from Eleanor's face, a stark realization dawning. Her gaze darted from the ring to Simone, then to her son and Rachel, still intimately close on the dance floor. "That's impossible. Brandon would never—" The denial was a reflex, a mother's fierce protection, but it was already too late. "I have photographs, Mrs. Roberts. I have recordings of their phone conversations. I have hotel receipts and credit card statements." Simone's voice, growing stronger with each word, was a symphony of undeniable truth. "Your son has been living a double life, and I refuse to be part of it anymore." The ring, a heavy weight of broken promises, fell into Eleanor's open palm with a tiny clink, a sound that seemed to echo the finality across the entire ballroom. This was not just an engagement breaking, it was a trust shattering, a family reputation teetering on the brink. This scene, so dramatic and public, highlights the incredible difficulty of confronting betrayal. For Simone, it was a moment of supreme courage, choosing truth over convenience, dignity over silence. It also shows the ripple effect of such deceit, impacting not just the direct victims, but innocent bystanders like Eleanor, whose own image of her son was instantly shattered. Let's rewind just a little to the beginning of this story, because every dramatic ending has a seemingly perfect start. 3 years earlier, Simone, a marketing executive, had been running late, coffee in hand, when she quite literally ran into Brandon Roberts outside a Starbucks. Her coffee, an expensive stain, christened his equally expensive suit. Mortified, she apologized profusely, frantically trying to salvage the situation with flimsy napkins. But Brandon, ever the charmer, simply laughed. "Well, this is one way to make an introduction," he'd said, his brown eyes twinkling with amusement. "I'm Brandon Roberts, And apparently, you're my wake-up call that I needed to stop checking emails while walking." Simone was immediately charmed. Who wouldn't be? His easy humor, his self-deprecating wit, the way he turned an awkward encounter into a memorable meet-cute. This is the seductive power of initial attraction, isn't it? The ability to see potential, to overlook minor flaws, to construct an idealized version of someone based on a few charming interactions. "I'm Simone Clark, and I'm usually not this clumsy. Let me pay for your dry cleaning." "Only if you let me buy you another coffee to replace the one that's now decorating my jacket." That coffee turned into a 2-hour conversation, a deep dive into shared passions and aspirations. Brandon, a junior partner at a prestigious corporate law firm, was ambitious, driven, and articulate. Simone, a marketing executive managing campaigns for major retail clients, was equally successful and passionate about her work. They discovered a mutual love for jazz music, Italian food, and old movies. It was a connection that felt destined, a kismet that seemed almost too perfect. Their first official date at Luigi's, a small Italian restaurant where Brandon, with his effortless charm, secured the best table without a reservation, cemented the feeling. Simone, despite feeling slightly underdressed in her simple black dress next to his perfectly tailored suit, felt like the most beautiful woman in the room under his gaze. "Tell me something about yourself that's not on your LinkedIn profile," he'd challenged over candlelight and wine. Simone confessed to singing in her church choir, a tradition she maintained more out of familial guilt than divine inspiration, making him laugh. Brandon, in turn, revealed his passion for collecting vintage jazz records, a vast collection of over 300 albums, preferring the authentic crackle of original pressings to sterile digital music. The chemistry was undeniable, a palpable spark that promised a vibrant future. Brandon embodied everything Simone had envisioned in a partner: sophisticated, ambitious, attentive. He opened doors, paid for dinners, sent flowers to her office just because it was Tuesday. Her friends were impressed. Her mother adored him instantly. It was a fairy tale beginning, the kind of romance that seems to exist only in movies, setting a dangerous precedent for what she believed true love should feel like. Their relationship progressed with the swift, natural momentum of two souls perfectly aligned. Within 6 months, they were spending most nights together. Brandon would cook elaborate dinners, his culinary skills matching his professional ambition, while Simone graded marketing proposals from her home office. They would listen to his beloved jazz collection, their conversations drifting from daily triumphs to grand dreams. "I want to make partner before I'm 35, Brandon confided one evening, his head resting on her chest, his words filled with a hunger for legacy. "I want to build something that matters." "You will," Simone assured him, tracing patterns on his skin. "You're the most driven person I know." He then turned the question to her, a gesture that spoke of genuine interest. "What about you? What do you want?" "I want to start my own agency someday. I have ideas about how marketing should work. Campaigns that would actually connect with people instead of just trying to sell them things they don't need." Brandon, with a kiss to her head, declared, "We're going to conquer the world, Simone Clark." It was a declaration of shared ambition, a vision of a joint future, a narrative of partnership that now rings with bitter irony. Meeting Simone's family was another seamless transition into her world. Her parents, Robert and Catherine Clark, welcomed him into their Sunday dinner tradition, a ritual steeped in warmth and familial love. Her younger sister, Denise, initially teased him mercilessly, a playful rite of passage, but later declared him definitely a keeper. Her formidable 80-year-old grandmother, Dorothy Clark, the family matriarch, pronounced him suitable after he paid a heartfelt compliment to her legendary sweet potato pie. Brandon was not just accepted, he was embraced. He remembered friends' names, inquired about Simone's projects, and championed her decision to pursue an MBA part-time. When doubt crept in, he was her unwavering support. "You're brilliant, Simone. Don't let fear hold you back from what you want." His words were a comforting balm, reinforcing the image of a supportive, loving partner. A 1.5 years into their relationship, they moved in together. Brandon's downtown condo, spacious and modern with floor-to-ceiling windows, became their shared sanctuary. Simone infused it with warmth, adding plants, colorful throw pillows, and cherished family photos, transforming a minimalist space into a home. They fell into comfortable routines: Sunday morning jazz brunches, Wednesday evening gym sessions, Friday date nights exploring new restaurants or cultural events. Brandon remained attentive, romantic, surprising her with weekend getaways to places like Napa Valley for their 2-year anniversary, where he confessed, "Everything is an adventure with you." The proposal 8 months prior, exactly 2.5 years after their fateful coffee shop collision, was nothing short of cinematic. Brandon orchestrated an elaborate evening at the art museum where they'd had their third date, arranging a private viewing of her favorite exhibit, complete with a soft jazz quartet. Dropping to one knee before a painting she loved, he uttered words that melted her heart. "Simone, you've made every day brighter since you spilled coffee on me. Will you marry me?" The ring, a classic solitaire with a brilliant cut diamond, was everything she had dreamed of. Through tears of joy, she said yes, and he spun her around in the empty gallery as the musicians played "The Way You Look Tonight." The engagement photos were perfect. Wedding planning progressed smoothly. Her dream dress was chosen, the perfect venue booked, save the dates sent to 200 guests. She was 3 short weeks away from becoming Mrs. Brandon Roberts, from stepping into a life that seemed idyllic, almost too perfect. And as it turned out, it was. This is where the narrative shifts, where the seeds of doubt, once buried deep, begin to sprout, signaling the slow, painful unraveling of a meticulously crafted illusion. The changes, as they often do in such situations, began subtly, almost imperceptibly, allowing Simone to initially dismiss them. She rationalized them away as wedding stress or the mounting pressure of their demanding careers. Brandon started staying later at the office, citing high-profile cases that demanded extra attention. Text messages would arrive around 8 p.m., informing her he'd grab dinner near work rather than coming home to the meal she'd lovingly prepared. "The Henderson merger is more complicated than we thought," he'd explain upon his late return, looking tired and distant. "Sorry, babe. I know this is the worst time for me to be swamped." Simone, herself a busy professional juggling major campaigns and wedding plans, understood, or so she thought. This is a common pattern in infidelity, the gradual erosion of presence, masked by plausible excuses. It preys on empathy, on a partner's willingness to believe, to understand. But then, Brandon's phone behavior shifted, becoming a stark red flag. The man who once left his phone carelessly on the kitchen counter while they watched movies now guarded it zealously, carrying it everywhere. He'd step onto the balcony to take work-related calls, even on weekends. Notifications would chime during their conversations, only to be swiftly silenced without a glance. "Everything okay?" Simone asked one Saturday morning when his phone rang during breakfast, and he declined the call immediately. "Just work. They can wait until Monday." But his jaw was tense, and his eyes kept darting to the silent device, betraying his manufactured nonchalance. These small, seemingly insignificant changes are often the early tremors of a much larger earthquake, signals our subconscious picks up long before our conscious mind dares to acknowledge them. Their intimacy began to suffer, a gradual withdrawal that left Simone feeling increasingly isolated. Brandon, once affectionate and attentive, became distracted. He'd nod and offer appropriate responses, but his mind was clearly elsewhere. Their physical connection, once passionate and frequent, became routine, brief, and devoid of the emotional depth that had once defined it. "Are you feeling okay?" she asked one night, after a particularly mechanical encounter. "You seem distant lately." "I'm fine, just stressed about the Morrison case. Once this settles down, everything will go back to normal." But normal never returned. Instead, the emotional chasm between them grew wider, a silent testament to the secrets he harbored. 3 months before their wedding, Simone noticed another shift, Brandon's renewed focus on his physical appearance. He joined a new gym closer to his office, bought expensive cologne, updated his wardrobe with more fashionable suits, and started getting his hair cut at an expensive downtown salon. "Look at you, trying to look good for me," Simone had teased, playfully running her hands over his newly fitted shirt. "Always trying to look good for you," he'd replied, but something in his tone felt rehearsed, a line delivered without genuine feeling. While self-improvement is generally positive, in the context of an already distant partner, it can be a jarring red flag, often signaling an effort to impress someone else. The business trips increased, becoming alarmingly frequent. Chicago, Atlanta, Dallas, always for client meetings or depositions requiring his specific expertise. "I hate being away from you so much," he'd lament while packing his suitcase. After the wedding, "I'm going to cut back on travel, I promise." Simone believed him, not because the excuses were entirely convincing, but because she desperately wanted to believe him. Love, in its most vulnerable form, can be a powerful rationalizer, excusing every red flag, every inconsistency, every nagging doubt, in a desperate attempt to preserve the perceived safety of the relationship. When friends commented on Brandon's change, she defended him. When her sister Denise noted his discomfort at family gatherings, Simone attributed it to wedding stress. We build these intricate castles of denial, protecting ourselves from a truth we subconsciously dread. The breaking point arrived on a Tuesday evening in March, a date etched into Simone's memory. She had planned a surprise dinner at Brandon's office, bringing his favorite Thai food, hoping to brighten his day after long hours on the Patterson case. The law firm building was eerily quiet at 8:30 p.m. The security guard, recognizing her, waved her through. As the elevator ascended to the 15th floor, Simone felt a flutter of excited anticipation, blissfully unaware that her world was about to be irrevocably shattered. The elevator doors opened to a dimly lit hallway. Most office lights were off, save for a sliver of light under Brandon's door. And voices. Brandon's voice, undeniably interwoven with a woman's, speaking in low, intimate tones. Simone approached quietly, not wanting to interrupt a client call, her heart sinking with a premonition she couldn't name. As she drew closer, the content of the conversation became chillingly clear. This was no professional discussion. "Can't keep doing this," the woman was saying, her voice laced with desperation. "It's getting harder to pretend." "I know," Brandon replied, his voice a balm of false reassurance. "After the wedding, things will be different. We'll figure something out." "The wedding?" The woman's voice rose slightly, laced with a raw plea. "Brandon, you're getting married in 3 months." "It's complicated, Rachel, you know that." Rachel. Simone's blood ran cold. Rachel Martinez, Brandon's secretary, a petite brunette, always friendly but professional during their brief interactions. "I can't be the other woman forever," Rachel continued, her voice breaking. "I love you, but this situation is killing me." And then the words that would haunt Simone's every waking moment. "You're not the other woman, Simone. What we have is different. It's real." Simone's hands began to shake uncontrollably, the bag of Thai food trembling in her grip. She pressed herself against the cold wall, desperate to hear more, yet terrified of what fresh hell she might uncover. "Then why are you marrying her?" Rachel's question, raw and direct, hung in the air, followed by a long, agonizing pause. Brandon's eventual response was a cold, calculated dagger to Simone's heart. "Because it's what's expected. My family, the firm partners, everyone expects this wedding. But you and I both know where my heart really is." Simone heard movement, a chair creaking. She envisioned Brandon pulling Rachel into his arms, the same comforting embrace he used to offer her in moments of distress. "I have to go," Rachel whispered. "This is too hard." Footsteps approached the door. Simone panicked, rushing to the elevator, hitting the button frantically. The doors opened just as Brandon's office door did, and she slipped inside, unseen, a ghost witnessing her own tragedy. As the elevator descended, Simone stared at her reflection in the polished metal doors. The woman looking back was a stranger, hollow-eyed, pale, clutching a cold bag of Thai food while her entire world crumbled. This moment, the silent witness to her fiancé's betrayal, is a universal experience for anyone who has discovered infidelity. It's not just the pain of the lie, but the profound sense of disorientation, the questioning of one's own sanity and judgment. The familiar person in the mirror is suddenly unrecognizable, not because of physical change, but because the foundation of their reality has been violently shaken. Simone sat in her car in the law firm's parking garage for 20 minutes, the $43 Thai food now a chilling symbol of her perceived stupidity. Her hands shook as she replayed the conversation, each word cutting deeper than the last. "You're not the other woman. What we have is different. It's real." She drove home in a daze, muscle memory guiding her along the familiar route while her mind reeled. Reaching their condo, she sat in the parking space next to Brandon's empty spot, desperately attempting to rationalize. Maybe she had misunderstood. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe there was an explanation that didn't involve her fiancé cheating with his secretary. But deep down, the truth, stark and undeniable, had already taken root. All those late nights, mysterious phone calls, and business trips suddenly made perfect, horrific sense. The new cologne, the updated wardrobe, the emotional distance. Brandon was having an affair. The denial, a powerful self-preservation mechanism, finally gave way to the crushing weight of reality. Upstairs, with trembling hands, Simone poured herself a glass of wine. Then, she did something she had never done in 3 years. She went through Brandon's things. His laptop, password-protected, yielded to her desperation. She knew his patterns, variations of important dates and names. After several failed attempts, she tried Rachel 2023. The screen unlocked. Her stomach lurched. Using his mistress's name as a password was almost more insulting than the affair itself. It was a brazen, callous disregard for her existence, a symbolic effacement of their entire relationship. The email folder marked personal contained months of correspondence between Brandon and Rachel. Love letters, intimate messages about their feelings, complaints about having to hide their relationship, detailed discussions about their secret rendezvous. One email from Rachel, dated 2 weeks prior, made Simone's blood boil. "Brandon, I can't watch you marry someone else while pretending everything is normal. Either you choose me, or I'm finding a new job and moving on with my life. I love you, but I won't be anyone's secret forever." Brandon's response, sent the same day, was the ultimate betrayal. "Rachel, you know how I feel about you. You're the love of my life, but the wedding is just a formality at this point. Too many people would be hurt if I called it off now. Give me time to figure this out. After we're married, I'll find a way to be with you properly. I promise." Simone ran to the bathroom and vomited, the physical manifestation of her utter disgust and heartbreak. The man she loved, the man she had planned to spend her life with, was promising his secretary that their marriage would be a sham, a mere formality, while he continued his real relationship on the side. She spent the rest of the night devouring their correspondence, torturing herself with every painful detail, yet unable to stop. The affair had been going on for 7 months. They had taken weekend trips together while Brandon told Simone he was at legal conferences. They had shared intimate dinners at expensive restaurants while she waited at home with takeout. Most painfully, Rachel's messages revealed her genuine belief that Brandon would eventually leave Simone for her. The other woman wasn't a calculating villain. She was a victim too, in love with a man who was lying to both of them. This realization added another layer of complexity to Simone's pain, transforming simple anger into a nuanced understanding of mutual betrayal. Brandon came home at midnight, as he had for weeks. "Sorry, babe, the Patterson case is killing me. How was your evening?" Simone looked at him from the couch where she had been sitting in the dark and saw a stranger. This man, who could lie so easily, who could kiss her goodnight while planning his future with someone else, was not the person she thought she knew. "It was fine," she replied, her voice surprisingly steady. "I missed you at dinner." He kissed the top of her head, the same casual gesture he had made thousands of times, but now it felt like a grotesque mockery. "I'll make it up to you this weekend. Maybe we can finally pick out those wedding favors you've been talking about." Wedding favors for a wedding he apparently considered a mere formality. The audacity, the casual cruelty of it all solidified Simone's resolve. The next morning, after Brandon left for work, Simone called in sick and drove to the office of a private investigator her divorce attorney friend had recommended years earlier. Harris Investigations occupied a modest suite, far from cinematic glamour. Detective Lisa Harris, a former police officer in her 50s, was professional and direct. She listened to Simone's story without judgment, taking notes in a plain notebook. "I need proof," Simone stated, her voice devoid of emotion. "I need documentation that will hold up in court if necessary." "Are you planning to divorce him?" Harris asked. "I don't know yet. I just need to know the truth. All of it." Detective Harris quoted a fee that made Simone wince, but she wrote the check anyway. "How long will this take?" "If he's as careless as most cheating spouses, probably a week. Men in love tend to take stupid risks." Detective Harris was right. 5 days later, she called Simone with an update. "We've got everything you need. Photos, audio recordings, documentation of hotel stays, restaurant receipts. Do you want me to put together a comprehensive report?" "Yes," Simone affirmed, "and I want copies of everything." The report arrived the following Monday in a plain manila envelope. 47 photographs showed Brandon and Rachel in various compromising situations, holding hands entering hotels, kissing in restaurant booths, embracing in parking garages. The time-stamped images created an irrefutable timeline of their relationship, coinciding perfectly with Brandon's increasing emotional distance from Simone. The audio recordings, captured through sophisticated surveillance, contained conversations that eliminated all doubt. Brandon telling Rachel he loved her, Rachel asking when he would leave Simone, both discussing their future together as if Simone's feelings were utterly inconsequential. The financial documentation completed the picture of systematic deception. Hotel rooms booked under Brandon's name, but paid for with a credit card Simone didn't know existed, expensive dinners at romantic restaurants on nights he claimed to be working late, jewelry purchases from stores specializing in gifts for mistresses. As Simone spread the evidence across her dining room table, she felt something unexpected: relief. For months, she had questioned her instincts, wondered if she was paranoid, insecure, or simply overthinking. Now she had unequivocal confirmation that her suspicions were justified. The insidious self-doubt that betrayal instills began to dissipate, replaced by a quiet, determined resolve. Her phone rang. Brandon's name appeared on the screen. "Hey babe, I'm going to be late again tonight. The Morrison deposition got moved up and we need to prep." Simone looked at a photograph of Brandon and Rachel kissing passionately outside the Marriott downtown, time-stamped the previous evening during his supposed client dinner. "No problem," she said calmly, her voice betraying no hint of the storm within. "I'll see you when you get home." After ending the call, Simone gathered the evidence, placing it back in the envelope. She had decisions to make, and she needed to think clearly. One thing was certain: Brandon Roberts had made the biggest mistake of his life. Simone spent 3 days in a strange state of calm determination. She went to work, managed her campaigns, attended meetings, and even smiled at her colleagues' wedding-related questions, all while the evidence of Brandon's betrayal sat locked in her home safe. Beneath her composed exterior, her mind worked with laser focus. She had 2 choices: confront Brandon privately or expose him publicly. The private confrontation would be cleaner, less messy for everyone involved. She could break off the engagement quietly, return the ring, and walk away with her dignity seemingly intact. But that option felt like letting him off too easy. Brandon had spent 7 months lying to her face, using her trust as a shield to conduct his affair. He had planned to marry her while promising another woman that their marriage would be meaningless. He deserved consequences that matched the scale of his deception. This wasn't merely about personal hurt, it was about holding him accountable for his profound lack of integrity. The engagement party was scheduled for Saturday evening at the Grand Ballroom in downtown. 200 guests, including Brandon's law partners, his wealthy clients, and both their families, would be present. It would be the perfect stage for revealing the truth about Brandon Roberts. This decision, though controversial, stemmed from a deep-seated need for justice and for her own voice to be heard, not quietly dismissed. It's a powerful internal battle, the desire for a clean exit versus the primal urge to expose injustice, especially when one's trust has been so cruelly violated. Many people grapple with this, the temptation to avoid conflict versus the burning need for accountability. Thursday evening, Simone drove to her sister Denise's apartment in Midtown. Denise, a graphic designer with a sharp tongue and an even sharper sense of justice, was exactly the ally Simone needed. "I knew something was wrong with him," Denise said after reviewing the evidence, holding up a photograph of Brandon and Rachel sharing dessert. "Look at how he's looking at her. He's never looked at you like that." "Thanks for the confidence boost," Simone said dryly, but a part of her appreciated the raw honesty. "I'm serious. This isn't the look of a man having a fling. He's in love with her." Denise set down the photo, her expression serious. "What are you going to do?" Simone outlined her plan. Attend the party as if nothing were amiss. During the traditional toasts and speeches, she would stand up and, instead of thanking everyone for celebrating their love, she would expose Brandon's affair with evidence projected onto the ballroom's large screens. "That's nuclear," Denise said, an approving glint in her eye. "I like it. What can I do to help?" "I need someone to handle the technical aspects. Can you set up a presentation that will display the photos and play the audio recordings?" "Consider it done. Anything else?" "I need you to make sure Mom and Dad are prepared. I don't want them to be blindsided when this happens." Denise nodded, understanding the delicate balance. "They'll be hurt that you didn't tell them sooner, but they'll understand once they see what Brandon did to you." The support of her sister, a clear signal of solidarity, reinforced Simone's determination. Friday afternoon, Simone met with her best friend Natasha at their favorite coffee shop. Natasha Williams, her closest friend since college, would be Simone's public anchor at the party, privy to the coming storm. "Girl, are you absolutely sure about this?" Natasha asked, her concern genuine. "Once you do this, there's no going back. Brandon will be ruined." "He ruined himself," Simone replied firmly. "I'm just making sure everyone knows about it." "What about Rachel? She's going to be destroyed too." This was an aspect Simone had wrestled with. Rachel was, in a way, also a victim of Brandon's elaborate lies, believing his promises of a future together. But she had also made a choice to get involved with an engaged man. "Rachel made her choice when she decided to sleep with my fiancé," Simone said, her voice hard. "I'm not responsible for protecting her from the results of her own actions." Natasha studied her friend's face carefully. "You've changed, Simone. This isn't like you. The old me trusted the wrong person and almost married a liar. The new me isn't going to make that mistake again." This transformation, the emergence of a stronger, more assertive self, is a common byproduct of profound betrayal. It forces a reassessment of boundaries, self-worth, and what one is willing to tolerate. That evening, Simone had dinner with Brandon for what she knew would be their last meal together. He was in a good mood, excited about the engagement party, and full of plans for their honeymoon in Italy. "I've been thinking we should extend the trip," he said over pasta at their usual restaurant. "Maybe spend an extra week in Rome. We both deserve a real vacation after all this wedding stress." Simone nodded, making appropriate responses, marveling at how easily the lies flowed from his mouth. According to the private investigator's report, Brandon had already promised Rachel a romantic weekend in Rome next month, supposedly for a client meeting. "I love you, Simone," Brandon said as they walked to their car after dinner. "I know I've been distracted lately, but after tomorrow night, everything will be perfect." He was right about one thing. After tomorrow night, everything would indeed be different. Saturday morning, Simone meticulously prepared. Hair, makeup, the navy blue cocktail dress chosen months ago, now transformed from an engagement celebration dress into her breakup outfit. She wanted Brandon to see exactly what he was losing, to feel the weight of his colossal mistake. At noon, she met Denise at the ballroom to set up the technical equipment. The presentation was loaded, ready to be activated with a single click. 47 photographs, 12 audio recordings, financial documentation. the irrefutable timeline of his deception. "Are you ready for this?" Denise asked, a final check. Simone surveyed the beautifully decorated ballroom, white roses and gold accents creating an elegant illusion. In a few hours, this space would witness the destruction of Brandon Roberts' carefully constructed life. "I've never been more ready for anything," she replied. Saturday afternoon, 2 hours before the party, Simone sat in her childhood bedroom at her parents' house, surrounded by the women who mattered most: her mother Catherine, her sister Denise, and her best friend Natasha. What was meant to be a pre-party celebration had transformed into a war council. "I still can't believe that boy had the nerve to look me in the eye and lie," Catherine Clark said, her voice shaking with anger, clutching a photograph of Brandon and Rachel in an intimate embrace. "I trusted him with my daughter's heart." Robert Clark, Simone's father, paced like a caged animal, his hands clenched into fists. "I should go over there right now and tell him what I think of him." "Dad, no," Simone said firmly. "This has to happen my way. Brandon thinks he's so smart, thinks he can manipulate everyone. Tonight, he learns he's not as clever as he thinks." Her grandmother, 80-year-old Dorothy Clark, sat calmly in the corner armchair. She had lived through enough family drama to recognize a woman seeking justice. "Baby girl, are you sure about this public approach? Sometimes it's better to let people destroy themselves privately." "Grandma," Simone replied, her voice unwavering, "he was going to marry me while planning a future with another woman. He deserves public humiliation." Dorothy nodded slowly. "Then you do what you need to do. But remember, revenge is a dish best served with dignity. Don't let his actions turn you into someone you won't recognize in the mirror tomorrow." It was a profound piece of wisdom, a reminder that while seeking justice, one must also protect one's own soul from the corrosive effects of bitterness. Natasha, meanwhile, was coordinating with Denise on her laptop. "The audio files are crystal clear," she reported. "Everyone in that ballroom is going to hear Brandon telling Rachel that marrying you is just a formality." "Good," Simone said, feeling surprisingly calm. "What about the timing?" "Right after dinner, during the toast portion," Denise explained. "Brandon's best man will speak first, then his father, then it's your turn. That's when we'll switch from your prepared remarks to the real presentation." Catherine looked at her eldest daughter with a mixture of pride and concern. "Are you absolutely certain about this, sweetheart? Once you do this, there's no taking it back. Brandon's reputation will be destroyed." "His reputation should be destroyed, Mom. He's a liar and a cheat who is about to commit fraud by marrying me under false pretenses." The conversation was interrupted by a knock on the bedroom door. Robert opened it to find Simone's cousin, Marcus, who had driven in from Atlanta. "Marcus, what are you doing here early?" Catherine asked. Marcus stepped into the room, his expression serious. "I came to warn Simone about something I saw at the hotel. I was checking in for tonight when I saw Brandon in the lobby with a woman who definitely wasn't Simone." The room fell silent, the air thick with dread. Brandon was still carrying on his affair, even hours before his engagement party. "What did you see exactly?" Simone asked. They were at the hotel bar, sitting close, holding hands. She was crying, and he was comforting her. It looked intimate. I almost went over to say something, but I thought maybe there was an explanation. Natasha pulled up the private investigator's photos. "Is this the woman you saw?" Marcus examined the screen and nodded. "That's her." "Rachel Martinez," Simone supplied. "Brandon's secretary, also his mistress for the past 7 months. Marcus's jaw dropped. "Oh, Simone, I'm so sorry. I should have said something immediately." "You're saying something now, and that's what matters," Simone replied. She turned to her family and friends. "This confirms that Brandon has no intention of ending his affair. Even today, hours before our engagement party, he's still choosing her over me." The evidence of Brandon's continued deception galvanized everyone. Even Catherine, who had wavered, now looked determined. "What do you need us to do?" Robert asked. Simone outlined her expectations. They would act normally until the moment of truth, smiling, making small talk, playing their parts. When she stood up, they should be prepared for the chaos. Brandon's going to deny everything at first, she predicted. He'll claim the evidence is fake or taken out of context, but the audio recordings will make denial impossible. What about his family? Catherine asked. Eleanor Roberts is a good woman. This is going to devastate her. Simone had thought about Eleanor extensively. Eleanor deserved the truth, but not public humiliation. I'm going to tell Mrs. Roberts first, privately, before the public announcement. She needs to hear it from me, not from a presentation screen. Denise checked her watch. We need to start getting ready. The party starts in 2 hours. As everyone began to disperse, Dorothy approached Simone. Walk with me to the garden, child. They stepped outside into Catherine's carefully tended backyard. Your grandfather cheated on me once, Dorothy said quietly. This was back in 1967 when you just didn't talk about such things openly. Simone was shocked. Her grandparents had seemed like the perfect couple. What did you do? I confronted him privately, and he ended the affair. We went to counseling, and we worked through it. But our situation was different from yours, baby girl. How so? Your grandfather was genuinely remorseful. He admitted his mistake and spent the next 50 years making it up to me. Brandon doesn't sound remorseful at all. He sounds like a man who wants to have his cake and eat it too. Dorothy took Simone's weathered hands. I'm not telling you this to change your mind about tonight. I'm telling you this so you'll know that not all men who make mistakes are worth forgiving. Some are just selfish boys who never learned how to be honorable men. Do you think I'm doing the right thing? Simone asked, a rare flicker of vulnerability. I think you're doing the only thing that will let you sleep at night, Dorothy replied, and sometimes that's all we can ask for. 2 hours later, Simone stood in front of her bedroom mirror applying the final touches to her makeup. She looked beautiful and composed, ready for battle. Her navy blue dress fit perfectly, her jewelry sparkled, her hair styled in an elegant updo showcasing the earrings Brandon had given her for Christmas. Tonight, those earrings would be the last gifts she would ever accept from him. Her phone buzzed with a text from Brandon. Can't wait to see my beautiful fiancé tonight. I love you. Simone stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. In 3 hours, Brandon Roberts would learn that lies eventually catch up with everyone. The grand ballroom at the Ritz-Carlton had been transformed into an elegant celebration of love and commitment. White roses cascaded from crystal centerpieces. Soft lighting created an intimate atmosphere, and the jazz quartet Brandon had hired played softly in the corner. 200 guests mingled with cocktails, celebrating what they believed was the upcoming union of two people deeply in love. Simone arrived fashionably late, as planned. She wanted to make an entrance to ensure that everyone saw her looking radiant and confident before they learned the truth about her fiancé. The navy blue cocktail dress hugged her curves perfectly, and she had chosen her jewelry carefully. Everything Brandon had given her over the years. Tonight, she would give it all back. Simone, darling, you look absolutely stunning, Eleanor Roberts said, approaching the entrance. Brandon's mother was elegant in her champagne-colored gown, beaming with maternal pride. Brandon is so lucky to have found you. The irony of those words hit Simone like a physical blow, a jarring dissonance between appearance and reality. Thank you, Mrs. Roberts. You look beautiful as well. Have you seen my son? He's been asking for you. I'm sure I'll find him soon, Simone replied, scanning the room. She spotted Brandon near the bar, impeccably dressed in his black tuxedo, surrounded by his law firm partners. He looked handsome and successful, every inch the perfect catch. The sight of him still made her heart race, but now it was with anger, not love. Natasha appeared at her elbow, stunning in her emerald green dress. You ready for this? More than ready, Simone murmured, accepting a glass of champagne from a passing waiter. Is everything set up? Denise confirmed that all the technical equipment is ready. One click, and Brandon's whole world changes. Across the room, Simone spotted Rachel Martinez near the chocolate fountain, wearing a black dress that was inappropriately sexy for a work event. She was talking to several other employees from Brandon's firm, playing the role of the professional secretary attending her boss's engagement party. The performance was almost impressive in its audacity. The audacity, Natasha whispered, following Simone's gaze. She's actually here. Of course she's here. Brandon probably insisted she come to maintain appearances. Can't have people thinking something's wrong if his secretary suddenly stops attending firm events. This level of brazenness is often seen in individuals who feel entitled or believe they are above reproach, a characteristic Brandon embodied. Brandon noticed Simone's arrival and made his way across the room, his face lighting up with what appeared to be genuine joy. For a moment, Simone almost doubted the evidence in her manila envelope. This man, approaching her with such obvious affection, couldn't possibly be the same person who had been lying to her for months. But then she remembered the audio recordings, the hotel receipts, the photographs of him kissing another woman. The illusion, however convincing, shattered under the weight of truth. "There's my beautiful bride-to-be," Brandon said, taking her hands and kissing her cheek. "You look incredible tonight." "Thank you. You look very handsome yourself." The words came easily, a muscle memory from 3 years of loving this man, now laced with a bitter contempt. "I have some people I want you to meet," Brandon said, guiding her toward a group of distinguished older men, senior partners from their sister firm in Chicago. Simone allowed herself to be led around the room, making polite conversation with Brandon's colleagues and clients. She smiled and nodded as they discussed the wedding, their honeymoon plans, and their bright future together. "You can tell they're truly in love," one of Brandon's clients observed. "It's refreshing to see genuine happiness in young people these days." Simone's smile felt like it might crack her face, but she maintained her composure. Across the room, she caught Rachel watching them with poorly concealed longing. The other woman's face revealed everything. She was in love with Brandon and struggling to watch him play the devoted fiancé. "At least she's suffering too," Simone thought with bitter satisfaction, a momentary indulgence in the very human desire for shared pain. Dinner was served at 8 o'clock. Simone found herself seated at the head table between Brandon and his father, directly facing the room full of guests. Perfect positioning for what she had planned. The meal was exquisite. Filet mignon, roasted vegetables, and a chocolate mousse that Simone couldn't taste through her anxiety. Brandon was animated and charming, regaling the table with stories about his latest legal victories. His hand rested possessively on her thigh under the table, a gesture that once would have thrilled her, but now made her skin crawl. "I want to thank everyone for coming tonight," Brandon announced to the table during the main course. "It means everything to Simone and me to have our families and friends here to celebrate with us." "We're so happy for you both," said Brandon's Aunt Margaret. "You make such a beautiful couple." Simone caught sight of Rachel at a table near the back, picking at her food and looking miserable. Their eyes met briefly across the crowded ballroom, and Simone saw recognition in Rachel's face. Rachel knew that Simone knew. "Good," Simone thought. "Let her sweat." As dessert was served, the evening's program began. Brandon's best friend from law school stood up to make the first toast. Sharing embarrassing stories about Brandon's dating life before he met Simone. The crowd laughed and applauded, enjoying the lighthearted roast. Next, Robert Clark, Simone's father, rose to speak. "Simone has always been a remarkable young woman," he said, his voice slightly strained. "She deserves nothing but love, honesty, and respect from the man she chooses to marry." The emphasis on honesty wasn't lost on anyone who knew the truth, a subtle nod of support for his daughter's impending revelation. Simone squeezed her father's hand gratefully as he sat back down. Brandon's father spoke next, welcoming Simone to the Roberts family and praising her intelligence and kindness. "Brandon has chosen well," he concluded. "We're proud to call Simone our daughter." Then it was Simone's turn. She stood slowly, her heart pounding, but her hands steady. The room fell quiet as 200 guests turned their attention to the beautiful bride-to-be. Her champagne glass trembled slightly, but her voice was clear and strong. "Thank you all for being here tonight to celebrate with Brandon and me," she began exactly as she had rehearsed. "Your love and support mean everything to us." She paused, scanning the room one final time. Her family members watched with tense expressions, knowing what was coming. Natasha had her phone ready to signal Denise. Rachel had gone pale. perhaps sensing the shift in the atmosphere. Brandon smiled up at her adoringly, completely oblivious to the bomb she was about to detonate. "Before we go any further with the celebration," Simone continued, her voice cutting through the suddenly silent ballroom, "I think there's something everyone should know about the man I was planning to marry." The atmosphere in the room shifted subtly, a collective intake of breath. Something in her tone suggested this wasn't going to be a typical romantic speech. Brandon's smile faltered. "Simone, what are you doing?" he hissed, starting to rise from his chair. "Sit down," she commanded, her tone so authoritative that he actually obeyed. "I'm not finished." She looked toward the back of the room where Denise was stationed near the audiovisual equipment. Her sister nodded and clicked the laptop. The large screens positioned around the ballroom flickered to life. The first image appeared: Brandon and Rachel holding hands while entering the Marriott downtown. The timestamp showed it was taken just 5 days earlier. "Oh my God," Eleanor Roberts whispered, her hand flying to her mouth. "This is ridiculous," Brandon said, finding his voice, a desperate attempt to regain control. "Those photos could be from anything. Business meetings, client." His words died as the next photograph appeared. Brandon and Rachel kissing passionately in the parking garage of his office building. "Business meeting?" Simone asked mockingly. "Let's see what else we have." More photos flashed on the screens. Brandon and Rachel sharing intimate dinners, embracing outside hotel rooms, walking hand in hand through parks. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. Rachel had stood up from her table, her face stricken with horror. Several of her colleagues stared at her in shock. She started moving toward the exit, but Simone's voice stopped her. "Don't leave yet, Rachel. This concerns you, too." The audio began playing through the ballroom sound system. Brandon's voice filled the room, clear and unmistakable. "Rachel, you know how I feel about you. You're the love of my life, but the wedding is just a formality at this point. Too many people would be hurt if I called it off now." A collective gasp rose from the guests. Eleanor Roberts made a sound like a wounded animal. Brandon's father's face had turned purple with rage. Brandon jumped to his feet. "This is fake! Someone has manipulated these recordings." "Really?" Simone asked calmly. "Let's hear some more." Rachel's voice came through the speakers. "I can't be the other woman forever. I love you, but this situation is killing me." And then Brandon's damning response. "You're not the other woman, Simone. What we have is different. It's real." The ballroom erupted in chaos. Voices rose in anger, shock, and indignation. Brandon's colleagues looked mortified. Several of Simone's relatives were shouting at Brandon. Rachel was crying openly, still frozen near her table. "Brandon Roberts," Simone said, her voice cutting through the noise. "You are a liar, a cheat, and a coward. You were planning to marry me while promising another woman that our marriage would be meaningless." She removed her engagement ring and held it up for everyone to see. "This ring represents trust, commitment, and love. You have violated all three." Brandon made a desperate attempt to salvage the situation. "Simone, please, we can work this out. This is all a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" Simone's voice rose with fury. "You call 7 months of an affair a misunderstanding? You call promising Rachel a future with you while lying to my face a misunderstanding?" She turned to address the room, her voice now filled with a powerful, dignified resignation. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for ruining what was supposed to be a celebration, but I refuse to marry a man who has so little respect for me, for you, and for the institution of marriage itself." Eleanor Roberts rose from her chair, tears streaming down her face. She walked slowly toward the head table, her elegant composure completely shattered. "Brandon," she said, her voice breaking, "how could you do this to Simone? How could you embarrass our family like this?" "Mom, I can explain." "Explain what? That you're exactly like your father was?" The words were like a slap. Everyone in the room knew that Brandon's father had been unfaithful to Eleanor years earlier, though they had worked through it privately. "I thought I raised you better than this." Simone walked around the table and approached Eleanor. "Mrs. Roberts, I want you to have this back." She placed the engagement ring in the older woman's palm. "Your son is going to need it for his next fiancé, assuming he can find someone who doesn't know what kind of man he really is." Eleanor looked at the ring, then at her son, then back at Simone. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. You deserved so much better than this." "Yes, I did," Simone agreed, her voice quiet but firm. The presentation continued, now displaying financial documents showing Brandon's secret credit card, used to fund his affair, hotel receipts, restaurant charges, and jewelry purchases for Rachel while he was supposedly working late. The evidence painted a picture of systematic deception that had cost thousands of dollars. "That's my money, too," Simone told the room, her voice laced with quiet fury. "Our joint account paid for his affair. He used our wedding fund to buy gifts for his mistress." Several of Brandon's law partners were having heated discussions at their tables. The managing partner, William Henderson, looked like he was considering how this scandal might affect the firm's reputation. Rachel finally found her voice, a broken whimper. "Simone, I never meant for this to happen. Brandon told me you two were having problems, that the engagement was just for show." "Stop," Simone cut her off, her voice sharp. "I don't want to hear your excuses. You chose to get involved with an engaged man. You chose to believe his lies instead of verifying the truth. You made your decisions and now you get to live with the consequences." Brandon made one last desperate play. "Simone, I love you. This thing with Rachel, it was a mistake. We can get past this. We can postpone the wedding and work through it." Simone looked at him with genuine pity, the last vestiges of her love completely extinguished. "Brandon, you don't love me. If you loved me, you never would have done this. You love the idea of me. You love having a beautiful, successful woman on your arm who makes you look good to your colleagues and clients. But you don't love me as a person." She addressed the room one final time, a clear, resonant declaration. "Thank you all for coming tonight. I'm sorry you had to witness this, but I hope it serves as a reminder that some people are not who they pretend to be." Simone picked up her purse and walked toward the exit. Behind her, the ballroom descended into chaos. Voices rose in angry confrontations. Rachel was sobbing. Brandon was trying to explain himself to anyone who would listen, his carefully crafted world crumbling around him. At the doorway, Simone turned back for one last look. Brandon stood alone at the head table, his perfect tuxedo somehow looking rumpled, despite being immaculate. He looked smaller than she remembered, diminished by the exposure of his true character. "Goodbye, Brandon," she said quietly, though he was too far away to hear her. Then she walked out of the grand ballroom and into the rest of her life, a life redefined by courage, self-respect, and an unwavering commitment to truth. The week following the engagement party felt surreal, like living in the eye of a hurricane. While Simone moved through her days with surprising calm, the storm she had unleashed continued to rage around her. Monday morning brought the first wave of consequences. Simone arrived at her office to find 17 missed calls on her work phone and 43 text messages on her personal device. The story had spread through their social circles like wildfire, with varying degrees of accuracy and embellishment. Her assistant, Jennifer, greeted her with a mixture of concern and poorly concealed curiosity. "Simone, there have been several reporters calling for you this morning. Something about your engagement party." "Reporters?" Simone was genuinely surprised. She hadn't expected media interest in what she considered a personal matter. Apparently, someone posted video clips on social media. The story is trending locally under the hashtag #EngagementPartyRevenge. Simone sank into her office chair and pulled up Twitter. Sure enough, several attendees had recorded portions of her confrontation with Brandon. The videos showed her standing composed and dignified while delivering devastating revelations about his affair. The comments were overwhelmingly supportive. "She handled that with such class," read one comment with hundreds of likes. "That's how you expose a cheater, with receipts and dignity." "This woman is my hero," read another. No screaming, no violence, just stone-cold facts. Brandon Roberts got exactly what he deserved. Her phone rang. Her mother's number. "Simone, sweetheart, how are you holding up?" Catherine's voice was filled with maternal concern. "I'm okay, Mom. Better than okay, actually. I feel free. The phone has been ringing all morning. Everyone wants to know if you're all right. Mrs. Patterson from church called to say she's proud of how you handled yourself. Even your Aunt Gloria called from Detroit to offer support. Simone smiled despite herself. Aunt Gloria was the family's toughest critic. If she approved, Simone had definitely made the right choice. What about the Roberts family? Have you heard anything from them? Catherine's voice grew sad. Eleanor called this morning. She wanted to apologize again and to tell you that she's asked Brandon to move out of the family home temporarily. She's devastated, honey. She truly loved you like a daughter. The mention of Eleanor's pain gave Simone a pang of guilt, but she pushed it aside. Eleanor's hurt was Brandon's responsibility, not hers. She had simply revealed the truth. He was the one who had created the situation. Tuesday brought news from Brandon's law firm. According to Natasha, who had connections in the legal community, Brandon was facing an internal investigation. His affair with a subordinate violated the firm's ethics policies, and there were questions about whether he had used company resources to facilitate the relationship. I heard from my friend at Henderson & Associates, Natasha reported during their lunch meeting. Brandon's been put on administrative leave pending a full review. The managing partners are furious about the negative publicity. Good, Simone said without hesitation. Consequences. What about Rachel? What about her? I heard she was fired yesterday. Simone felt a moment of satisfaction, followed immediately by a flicker of guilt. Rachel had been wrong to get involved with Brandon, but she had also been deceived by his lies. Her career was now destroyed because of her poor judgment and trusting the wrong man. She made her choice, Simone said finally. I'm not responsible for the fallout from other people's decisions. Wednesday evening brought an unexpected visitor. Simone was at home, finally going through Brandon's belongings to pack them for removal, when her doorbell rang. Through the peephole, she saw Eleanor Roberts, looking older and more fragile than she had just 5 days earlier. Mrs. Roberts, Simone said as she opened the door, I wasn't expecting you. I hope you don't mind me stopping by. I brought Brandon's things. Eleanor gestured to several boxes in the hallway. I thought it would be easier if I handled the exchange rather than him coming here. Simone helped Eleanor bring the boxes inside. They sat in the living room where Brandon had proposed 8 months earlier, surrounded by the remnants of their relationship. I want you to know that I don't blame you for what happened Saturday, Eleanor said quietly. You had every right to expose Brandon's behavior. I'm just sorry you had to go through that pain. Thank you for saying that. I was worried you might hate me for humiliating your son publicly. Eleanor's laugh was bitter. Brandon humiliated himself. You just made sure everyone knew about it. She paused, looking around the elegant condo. You know, I suspected something was wrong months ago. Brandon seemed different, distracted, but I told myself it was work stress or wedding nerves. I did the same thing, Simone admitted. I made excuses for every red flag because I wanted to believe in us. We mothers always want to think the best of our children, but sometimes they grow up to be people we don't recognize. Eleanor's voice broke slightly. I thought I had raised him to be honorable, to treat women with respect. His father and I had our problems, but Brandon knew how much infidelity hurt our family. They sat in comfortable silence for several minutes, two women bonded by their shared disappointment in Brandon Roberts, a silent testament to the insidious way betrayal ripples through and wounds multiple lives. What will you do now? Eleanor asked. I'm not sure yet. I need some time to figure out who I am without Brandon in my life, but I'm not afraid of starting over. You're a remarkable woman, Simone. You handled that situation with more grace than I would have managed at your age. Eleanor stood to leave. I hope you find someone who deserves you. After Eleanor left, Simone continued packing Brandon's belongings. Each item told the story of their relationship. The jazz albums he had introduced her to, the coffee maker he had insisted they needed, the expensive cologne that now seemed like evidence of his vanity. At the bottom of his nightstand drawer, she found a small velvet box she didn't recognize. Inside was a pair of diamond earrings, clearly expensive and definitely not anything he had ever given her. For Rachel, she realized, another gift for his mistress, purchased with their joint funds. Instead of anger, Simone felt only pity. This was what Brandon's love looked like: secret gifts, hidden relationships, and elaborate lies. She had dodged a bullet by discovering his true character before they were legally bound together. Thursday morning brought a call from Detective Harris, the private investigator. "I wanted to let you know that I've been contacted by the State Bar Association," Harris said. "They're investigating Brandon's conduct. Using client funds to pay for personal expenses, including his affair, could result in disbarment." Client funds? Simone was confused. The credit card he used for the affair expenses, it was linked to his firm's client account. Technically, he was stealing from clients to fund his relationship with Rachel. Simone sat down heavily. Brandon's ethical violations were worse than she had realized. He hadn't just cheated on her. He had committed professional misconduct that could end his career permanently. "I thought you should know, since your evidence is part of their case file now," Harris continued. After ending the call, Simone realized that her public confrontation had unleashed consequences far beyond what she had intended. Brandon wasn't just facing personal embarrassment. His entire future was in jeopardy. For the first time since the engagement party, she felt a flicker of doubt. Had she gone too far? But then she remembered the audio recording of Brandon telling Rachel that their marriage would be just a formality. She remembered the months of lies, the stolen money, and the complete disregard for her feelings. No, she decided. Brandon had created this situation through his own choices. She had simply refused to be a victim of those choices. By Friday, Simone felt ready to face the future. She had cleaned Brandon out of her condo, changed the locks, and started making plans for her new life. The wedding venue had been canceled, deposits forfeited. The dress would be donated to charity. The honeymoon reservations had been transferred to her and Natasha for a girls' trip to Italy. "You seem different," Natasha observed during their Friday night dinner. "Stronger somehow." "I feel different," Simone admitted. "For 3 years, I defined myself partly through my relationship with Brandon. Now I get to figure out who I am on my own terms." "Any regrets about how you handled things?" Natasha probed gently. Simone considered the question carefully. "I regret that Brandon turned out to be someone I couldn't respect. I regret that I trusted him for as long as I did, but I don't regret exposing him. Some people only learn from public consequences." As they walked home through the city streets, Simone felt lighter than she had in months. The weight of Brandon's deception was gone, replaced by the exhilarating freedom of possibility. She was 29 years old, financially independent, professionally successful, and finally free to find someone who would love her honestly. The future had never looked brighter. 6 months after the engagement party that ended her relationship with Brandon Roberts, Simone Clark stood in the conference room of her new office, looking out at the city skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows. Clark Creative Solutions occupied the entire 15th floor of a downtown building, complete with an open workspace design, state-of-the-art equipment, and a team of 12 talented employees. The Morrison campaign exceeded projections by 30%. Her business partner and creative director, James Washington, reported during their weekly team meeting. "Client satisfaction scores are through the roof." Simone smiled, feeling a familiar surge of pride and accomplishment. Starting her own marketing agency had been terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. She had used her savings, taken out a business loan, and convinced 3 of her former colleagues to join her in the venture. 6 months later, they were profitable and growing rapidly. "The success of the Morrison campaign proves that our approach works," Simone told her team. "Authentic storytelling resonates with consumers better than traditional advertising gimmicks. People want to connect with brands that understand their values and experiences." After the meeting, James lingered in the conference room. Dr. James Washington was a successful pediatrician who had consulted with Simone's agency on a healthcare campaign 3 months earlier. Their professional relationship had evolved into friendship, and lately, something deeper. "Dinner tonight?" he asked, his warm brown eyes twinkling with affection. "I'd like that," Simone replied, still amazed by how easy everything felt with James. There were no games, no hidden agendas, no elaborate deceptions. He was straightforward, honest, and genuinely interested in her thoughts and feelings. They had met during the most chaotic period of her life, just weeks after the engagement party scandal, when she was still dealing with the fallout from Brandon's behavior. James had been contracted to advise on a campaign promoting children's health initiatives, and his dedication to his young patients had immediately impressed her. "You care about making a real difference," she had observed after watching him interact with families at a community health fair. "Children deserve advocates who will fight for them," he had replied simply. "They can't protect themselves from adult failures." The comment had resonated deeply with Simone, who was still processing her own experience with adult failure and betrayal. Their first official date had been 2 months ago, a simple dinner at a neighborhood restaurant where they talked for 4 hours about everything except her past relationship drama. James knew about Brandon and the public breakup. Everyone in their social circle did, but he never pressed for details or treated her like damaged goods. "Your past relationships don't define who you are now," he had told her when she finally opened up about her trust issues. "I'm interested in getting to know the woman you are today, not the woman you were with someone else." That evening, they went to Chen's Garden, a small Chinese restaurant that had become their regular spot. The owner, Mrs. Chen, always greeted them warmly and insisted on bringing extra dumplings for the beautiful couple. "How was your day at the hospital?" Simone asked over sweet and sour chicken. "Busy but good. We had a 6-year-old come in with a broken arm from falling off her bike. She was more worried about missing her soccer game than the pain. Kids are so resilient." Simone loved listening to James talk about his work. His compassion and dedication reminded her why she had been drawn to him in the first place. Unlike Brandon, who had often dominated conversations with stories about his legal victories and professional achievements, James was genuinely interested in hearing about her day. "What about you? How did the Henderson Industries presentation go?" "They loved it. We should have a signed contract by Friday." Simone paused, then added, "I've been thinking about expanding our team, maybe hiring another account manager." "That's fantastic. You've built something amazing, Simone." The compliment warmed her heart. James supported her ambitions without trying to manage or control them. He celebrated her successes genuinely, without any underlying competitiveness or resentment. After dinner, they walked through the park where Simone and Brandon had once jogged together on Sunday mornings. The memory no longer stung. Instead, she felt grateful for the contrast between her past and present relationships. "I have something to tell you," James said as they sat on a bench overlooking the pond. Simone's heart skipped, hoping this wasn't the moment when James revealed some hidden flaw or secret that would destroy her newfound happiness. "I've been offered a position at Children's Hospital in Seattle," he continued. "It's a significant promotion, heading up their new pediatric cardiology program." Simone's stomach dropped. Just when she had found someone worth caring about, he was leaving. "That's wonderful, James. You deserve that kind of recognition." "I haven't accepted it yet," he said quickly. "I wanted to talk to you first." "What? It sounds like an incredible opportunity." James turned to face her fully, his expression serious. "Because I'm in love with you, Simone Clark, and I don't want to move across the country unless I know where we stand." The words hit her like a physical force. No one had said, "I love you" to her since Brandon, and hearing it from James felt completely different. There was no manipulation, no hidden agenda, just honest emotion from a man she had grown to trust completely. "James," Simone began, "I know it's only been 2 months of dating, but I've never felt this way about anyone. You're brilliant, strong, funny, and you've overcome more in the past year than most people face in a lifetime. I want to build a future with you." Simone felt tears threatening to spill over. After Brandon's betrayal, she had wondered if she would ever be able to trust her judgment about men again, but everything about James felt right. "I love you too," she whispered. "I didn't think I was ready to feel this way about anyone, but you changed that." James smiled, relief flooding his features. "So, what do we do about Seattle?" "You should take the job," Simone said firmly. "It's too good an opportunity to pass up for a relationship that's still new. I was hoping you might consider coming with me. I know you just started your agency, but Seattle has a thriving business community. You could expand there." The suggestion was both thrilling and terrifying. Moving to Seattle would mean leaving everything familiar behind: her family, her friends, her newly established business. But it would also mean starting completely fresh in a place with no memories of Brandon or the scandal that had defined her life for months. "That's a big decision," she said carefully. "I know, and I don't want to pressure you, but I had to ask." They sat in comfortable silence, watching ducks glide across the pond's surface. Simone thought about all the changes she had made in the past year. She had ended an engagement, started a business, and rebuilt her entire life. Moving to Seattle would be just another bold choice in a year full of them, a testament to her newfound courage. "What would it look like," she asked, "if I came with you?" James's face lit up. "We could find a place together. I could help you establish your agency in a new market. We could explore the Pacific Northwest, drink coffee in Pike Place Market, take weekend trips to Vancouver." The picture he painted was appealing, a fresh start in a beautiful city with a man who valued her ambitions and supported her dreams. "I need to think about it," she said. "And I need to talk to my business partners." "Of course. Take all the time you need." 2 weeks later, Simone had her answer. After extensive discussions with her team and careful analysis of the Seattle market, she decided to open a second location of Clark Creative Solutions on the West Coast. James would head up pediatric cardiology at Children's Hospital, and she would build her agency into a multi-city operation. The decision felt right in a way that her engagement to Brandon never had. With Brandon, she had always felt like she was compromising essential parts of herself to fit into his vision of their future. With James, she felt supported and encouraged to become the best version of herself. On their last night in the city before the move, Simone and James had dinner at Luigi's, the Italian restaurant where she had her first date with Brandon 3 years earlier. She had specifically chosen the location to prove to herself that Brandon no longer had power over her memories, over her emotional landscape. "Any regrets?" James asked, raising his wine glass in a toast. "About which part? Ending my engagement, starting my own business, or falling in love with a pediatric cardiologist?" "All of it." Simone considered the question seriously. The past year had been the most challenging and transformative of her life. She had learned hard lessons about trust, self-respect, and the importance of choosing partners who shared her values, not just her ambitions. "No regrets," she said finally, touching her glass to his. "Everything that happened led me to this moment, to you, to the life we're about to build together." As they walked hand in hand toward their future, Simone realized that Brandon's betrayal had been the best thing that ever happened to her. It had forced her to discover her own strength, pursue her professional dreams, and ultimately find a love that was based on mutual respect and genuine compatibility. The woman who had handed back her engagement ring 6 months earlier was gone, replaced by someone stronger, wiser, and infinitely happier. She was exactly where she was meant to be. The clear lesson here is multifaceted, yet profoundly simple. Trust your intuition. Those nagging doubts, those subtle shifts, the whispers of unease, they are your internal compass. Second, know your worth. When someone's actions do not align with their words, or when they consistently diminish your sense of self, it's a sign to reevaluate. You deserve honesty, respect, and a partner who celebrates you, not one who uses you to maintain appearances. Third, consequences are real. For every action, there is a reaction. And while exposing betrayal publicly can be messy and painful, it can also be a powerful act of self-liberation and accountability. Finally, betrayal, though devastating, can be a catalyst for immense personal growth. It can force you to shed old narratives, redefine your values, and build a stronger, more authentic life on your own terms. Simone's story is a testament to resilience, proving that even from the ashes of heartbreak, a brighter, more fulfilling future can emerge, often far grander than the one you originally envisioned.